The stars looked different from the bridge of the Earth Coalition vessel Resilience. Captain Lisa Dawson had spent 20 years in space, but she never got tired of the view. Today, though, she hardly noticed the beauty. Her eyes were fixed on the massive alien ship that filled the main screen. "They're hailing us again," said Lieutenant Jack Miller from the communications station. His voice was steady, but Lisa could see the tension in his shoulders. "Put them through," she said, straightening her uniform jacket. This was only the third time humans had spoken with the aliens who called themselves the Kreth. The first two conversations had not gone well. The screen changed to show the alien commander. Supreme Warlord Zextral was nearly 8 feet tall, with gray-green skin that looked like tough leather. He had 6 eyes arranged in a circle on his face and a mouth full of sharp teeth. When he spoke, his mandibles clicked. "Captain of the human vessel," he said, his words translated by the ship's computer. "The patience of the galactic hegemony grows thin. Your species has been given the honor of joining our empire as a vassal state. Yet you continue to delay your answer." Lisa kept her face calm. Inside, her mind was racing. When humans had finally developed faster than light travel and ventured beyond their solar system, they had hoped to find friendly aliens. Instead, they found the hegemony, a group of species ruled by the Kreth who treated all other life forms as either servants or enemies. "Supreme Warlord," Lisa said carefully, "as I explained before, Earth's government needs time to consider your offer. We have never encountered an interstellar civilization before. This is all very new to us." The alien made a sound that the translator didn't catch. It sounded like disgust. "There is nothing to consider. You will surrender 30% of your planet's resources immediately. You will accept Kreth governors on your world. Your ships will serve in our fleet. This is not a negotiation. This is the natural order of the universe. Strong species rule. Weak species serve." Behind Lisa, she heard Dr. Susan Cooper whisper to another crew member. Susan was their expert on alien languages and cultures. "There's something wrong with how they see us. They're treating us like we're already beaten." Lisa silently agreed. From the moment the Resilience had encountered the hegemony ships, the aliens had acted like humans were no threat at all. It was strange. Most species would be cautious when meeting someone new. The Kreth acted like they had already won a war that hadn't even started. "And if we refuse these terms?" Lisa asked, keeping her voice level. The alien's 6 eyes blinked, in sequence. "Then we will destroy your primitive vessels and bombard your homeworld from orbit. We have done this 11 times to species who refuse to understand their place. Your weapons cannot harm our ships. Your defenses cannot stop our attacks. Your civilization will be reduced to ashes, and the survivors will serve us anyway, but with far harsher conditions." Lisa heard Jack Miller mutter, "Our scans show their weapons could cut through our shields in minutes." She nodded slightly, to show she had heard him. The situation was bad. The Resilience was one of Earth's best ships, but it was designed for exploration, not war. And even Earth's military vessels were new and untested against alien technology. Zextral continued, "We have conquered 12 species across 200 star systems. Some tried to fight, all failed. Your species is nothing special. You are merely the latest to join the hegemony." Lisa listened as the alien described in detail how easily his forces could destroy human civilization. He talked about weapons that could boil oceans and crack continents. He explained how his ships could move faster and hit harder than anything humans had built. He spoke with absolute certainty that resistance was pointless. When he finally finished, the bridge was silent. Everyone was looking at Lisa, waiting for her response. Earth was depending on her next words. Lisa met the alien's gaze and simply raised one eyebrow. "Is that all?" she asked. The translator must have worked correctly, because the alien's reaction was immediate. His mandibles stopped moving. All 6 eyes widened. His gray-green skin seemed to pale slightly. "What did you say?" he demanded. "I asked if that was all," Lisa repeated calmly. "If you've finished explaining why we should surrender without a fight." The alien leaned closer to the camera on his end. You do not seem to understand the situation, human. I have just explained that we can destroy your entire civilization. Lisa nodded. I heard you. And now I'm asking for 48 hours to consider your proposal and consult with Earth's government. That seems reasonable even to a superior species like yours. You are playing some game, Zextral said, his voice lower now. It will not work. But I will grant your request. You have 48 hours to accept our terms, not a minute more. The screen went dark as he cut the connection. As soon as the alien was gone, the bridge erupted in voices. Captain, what are you thinking? Jack Miller asked. They could blow us apart. They could, Lisa agreed. But they didn't, and they gave us time. That's interesting, don't you think? She turned to Susan. What did you make of that conversation, Doctor? Susan frowned, thinking. They're overconfident. They've conquered other species easily, so they expect us to be the same, but there's something else. She paused. I think they're afraid. Afraid? Of us? Jack looked skeptical. They have better ships, better weapons, more experience. But they don't know us, Lisa said quietly. She walked to her command chair and pressed a button. Communication, send an emergency message to Earth Defense Command. Use the quantum channel so the Kreth can't intercept it. Tell them everything that happened and that we need a response within 47 hours. She looked around at her crew. The Kreth think they know what humans will do. They expect us to either surrender immediately or try a direct attack that they can easily defeat. Those are the only options they can imagine. Lisa smiled slightly. But they've never met humans before. They don't know what we're capable of when our backs are against the wall, and they've just made a serious mistake. What's that, Captain? Asked Jack. They've given us time to prepare, Lisa said. And believe me, Earth is going to use every second of it. She looked back at the view screen, now showing only stars and the distant shape of the alien vessel. They think this is already over, but it hasn't even begun. Admiral Alan Barnes stood at the center of Earth Defense Command headquarters. The large room was packed with people. Representatives from nearly every nation on the planet watched as he played the message from Captain Dawson and the Kreth warlord. When the recording ended, the room was silent for several long seconds. So that's it, said Defense Secretary Maria Reyes at last. An alien empire wants Earth to surrender in 2 days, or they'll attack. Not quite 2 days now, Barnes said, checking the time. Captain Dawson sent this message 10 hours ago. We have 38 hours left to respond. The room burst into worried voices. Some wanted to try diplomacy. Others suggested surrender to buy time. A few called for an immediate attack. Quiet, please, Barnes said, raising his hands. When the noise died down, he continued. I've asked our top scientists and military experts to analyze everything we know about the Kreth. Dr. Peter Winters will present their findings. A thin man with glasses stepped forward. He didn't look like a typical scientist. His hands were rough from working with machines, and he wore a simple gray sweater instead of a lab coat. The Kreth aren't lying about their technology, Dr. Winters began. Based on our scans, their ships are far more advanced than ours. Their weapons could indeed destroy our cities from orbit. In a traditional space battle, we would lose quickly. More. Worried murmurs filled the room. However, Winters continued, the Kreth have a significant weakness. They don't understand humans. He tapped a tablet, and a holographic image appeared in the center of the room. It showed a comparison between human physiology and what they knew of Kreth biology. The Kreth evolved on a low-gravity world with a stable climate. They're physically stronger than us in some ways, but they tire quickly. Their society conquered most species through overwhelming force and superior technology. When they display their power, other species surrender. But that's exactly what they're doing to us, someone pointed out. Yes, Winters agreed, and they expect it to work the same way. But humans are different from the species they've encountered before. We evolved on what they would consider a death world. He showed another image, this time of Earth's varied environments, from scorching deserts to frozen tundras. We developed on a high-gravity planet with extreme temperature variations and thousands of natural dangers. Our bodies can endure conditions that would kill most species. We can run for hours when other species would collapse. We can survive injuries that would be fatal to others. Barnes nodded. And more importantly, humans have been fighting each other for our entire history. We've developed tactics specifically to defeat enemies with superior technology or numbers. Exactly, Winters said. The Kreth have no concept of asymmetric warfare. They expect either surrender or a direct attack. They can easily defeat. They don't understand what humans do when backed into a corner. A general raised her hand. That's all interesting, but it doesn't change the fact that their ships can destroy ours. Who said anything about using our ships? Barnes asked with a small smile. Over the next hour, Barnes and Winters laid out a plan that made several people in the room gasp. It wasn't a traditional military response. It was something the Kreth would never expect. We don't have time to build new weapons, Barnes explained, but we can modify what we already have in ways the aliens won't anticipate. Engineers and scientists were called in. Factory managers from around the world joined by video. For the first time in human history, every nation worked together with a single purpose: survival. For 3 days, Earth's factories worked at maximum capacity. They weren't building warships. There wasn't time for that. Instead, they were converting existing technology in unexpected ways. Agricultural drones were modified to carry small explosive charges. Commercial satellites were reprogrammed. Civilian pilots trained on simulators for missions no one had ever attempted before. Computer experts worked on breaking into alien communication frequencies. In cities across the planet, people gathered in public squares to watch the news. Some prayed, others prepared for the worst. But most found ways to help, volunteering, donating equipment, or simply staying calm and following instructions. On the Resilience, Captain Lisa Dawson received encrypted messages from Earth every few hours. At first, the plans seemed crazy to her. But the more she thought about them, the more she realized they might work. The Kreth were overconfident. They had no idea what was coming. 36 hours after her conversation with Zextral, Lisa received Earth's official response to transmit to the Kreth. When she read it, she allowed herself a small smile. "Lieutenant Miller," she called. "Prepare to transmit this message to the Kreth flagship." Jack looked up from his station. "Is that our surrender, Captain?" "Not exactly," Lisa said. "It's an invitation." Jack looked confused. "An invitation to what?" "To a demonstration of human culture," Lisa explained. "We're inviting Warlord Zextral to meet a diplomatic team at a neutral location in the asteroid belt. We're offering to show them Earth arts, music, and other cultural achievements." "And they'll accept that?" Jack asked doubtfully. "They will because they're curious," Lisa said. "Captain Dawson to Dr. Cooper," she called over the ship's communication system. Susan appeared on a small screen. "Yes, Captain? You've studied the Kreth communications. Would you say they have a weakness for displays of status?" Susan nodded. "Definitely. Their entire society is built around showing off power and making others acknowledge it. That's why Zextral spent so much time telling us how easily they could destroy us. And if we act unimpressed by their power, it confuses them," Susan finished. "It doesn't fit their worldview." "Exactly," Lisa said. "That's why we're responding this way. Earth isn't surrendering or attacking directly. We're doing something they can't understand, acting like we have nothing to fear." As the message transmitted to the Kreth vessel, Lisa looked around at her crew. They were scared but determined. In just a few hours, they would find out if Earth's desperate plan had any chance of working. "The Kreth think they know what humans will do," she said quietly. "They've conquered 12 species, all of whom either surrendered immediately or fought in ways the Kreth expected. But humans aren't like those other species," Jack said, beginning to understand. "No," Lisa agreed. "We're not. And when Zextral realizes that, it will be too late." On the main screen, the massive Kreth warship floated against the backdrop of stars. Soon, Humans would teach these aliens a lesson they would never forget. Never threaten a species that evolved as persistence. Hunters on a death world. Lisa took a deep breath. And now we wait for their response. Supreme Warlord Zextral stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominant Fist. He stared at the message from the humans with all 6 of his eyes narrowed. "A cultural exchange?" he said, his mandibles clicking in confusion. "They face destruction, and they invite us to watch their dancing." His second-in-command, Subcommander Krath, approached carefully. "It must be a trick, Supreme Warlord." "Obviously," Zextral agreed. "But what kind of trick? We scanned their vessels. They have no weapons that can harm us." "Perhaps they plan to surrender in person," another officer suggested. "To save face with their people." Zextral considered this. In 12 conquests across 200 star systems, he had seen many reactions to hegemony demands. Some species fought hopeless battles. Others surrendered immediately. A few tried to run. None had ever invited their conquerors to a cultural demonstration. "I am curious," he admitted finally. "We will accept their invitation. But we will be prepared for any treachery." 2 days later, a small human shuttle approached the meeting point in Earth's asteroid belt. The Dominant Fist waited, there surrounded by 10 Kreth warships. The human vessel was tiny compared to the alien ships. Inside the shuttle, Lieutenant Steve Gordon checked his equipment one last time. He was 35 years old, a former athlete who had won medals in wrestling before joining the space program. With him were 4 other humans chosen for their specific skills. "Remember," Steve told his team, "the Kreth evolved on a low-gravity world. Earth gravity feels crushing to them. We'll have the advantage in strength and speed, but only if their artificial gravity is set to their normal levels." "And if it isn't?" asked Olivia Wright, the team's technology expert. "Then we improvise," Steve said with a tight smile. "That's what humans do best." Their shuttle docked with the massive Kreth flagship. When the airlock opened, 6 heavily armed Kreth guards waited for them. Each alien was nearly 8 feet tall, with tough gray-green skin and multiple eyes. "You will surrender all weapons," the lead guard demanded. "We carry no weapons," Steve said truthfully. The items they carried looked like ceremonial gifts. Beautifully carved boxes, ornate metal cylinders, and decorative spheres. The Kreth scanned them thoroughly but found no energy signatures or explosives. What the aliens didn't understand was that humans had been making non-metallic, non-electronic weapons for thousands of years. The guards led them through the ship to a large chamber where Supreme Warlord Zextral waited on an elevated platform. The room was filled with high-ranking Kreth officers. Steve noted that the artificial gravity was indeed set to Kreth standard, about 60% of Earth normal. He felt light on his feet. "Humans," Zextral said, looking down at them. "Explain the purpose of this meeting. Your time to surrender has almost expired." Steve stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Supreme Warlord, we bring greetings from Earth. Before any formal agreements are made, our leaders thought it important that you understand human culture and capabilities." "We already understand your capabilities," Zextral said dismissively. "Your technology is primitive. Your weapons are ineffective against us." "Technology is not the only measure of capability," Steve replied. "May I demonstrate?" The warlord waved a hand in permission. Steve opened one of the carved boxes and removed what looked like a musical instrument. It was made of wood and string, materials the Kreth scanners had registered as harmless. "This is an Earth instrument called a violin," Steve explained. He handed it to Olivia, who began to play a simple melody. While all eyes were on Olivia, the rest of Steve's team quietly moved to specific positions around the room. No one noticed that they were standing near critical control panels and security stations. "Primitive sound production," Zextral commented. "Is this why you came here? To play noise?" "No," Steve said. "We came to show you something important about humans." Without warning, Olivia swung the violin like a club, smashing it into the nearest security console. As the wood splintered, hidden components inside activated, releasing a powerful electromagnetic pulse that temporarily disabled the local systems. At the same time, Steve's other team members moved with surprising speed. Taking advantage of the lighter gravity, they leaped distances that seemed impossible, moving faster than the Kreth could follow. The aliens tried to respond, but they were confused and slow. Their bodies, adapted to lower gravity, couldn't match the humans' earthborn muscles. Within 90 seconds, Steve's team had control of the room. They hadn't killed anyone, but several Kreth guards were unconscious and the others were restrained using cords that had been disguised as decorative elements on their clothing. Zexatral found himself staring at Steve, who now stood on the warlord's platform. "What is happening?" the alien demanded, mandibles clicking rapidly in distress. "A demonstration," Steve said calmly. "While we've been talking, similar teams have boarded 3 other ships in your fleet." He gestured to Olivia, who had accessed a computer terminal. On the main screen, they could see thousands of small objects moving toward the Kreth vessels throughout the solar system. "Those are modified mining drones," Steve explained. "Normally they cut asteroids. Now they're programmed to attach to your ships and detonate if necessary." Zextral's multiple eyes widened in shock. "Impossible. Our sensors detected no weapons approaching." "That's because they're not powered. They're drifting on calculated trajectories, using minimal guidance systems that your technology doesn't recognize as threats." At the same time, the lights on the bridge flickered. A Kreth officer rushed in, only to be restrained by one of Steve's team. "Supreme Warlord," the officer called out. "Our systems are failing. Some kind of invasion has infected our network." "The cultural exchange transmission we sent contained a computer virus," Steve explained. "It's spreading through your fleet's interconnected systems right now, locking down your weapons and engines." Zexatral stared at the human in disbelief. "This is impossible," he said again, more quietly this time. "You are a pre-spacefaring species. You have only had faster-than-light travel for a decade." Steve nodded. "That's true. But humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We became very good at warfare long before we reached the stars. We've had to defeat enemies with superior weapons and numbers throughout our history." He stepped closer to the alien warlord. "Your mistake was thinking that technology is the only advantage that matters. You didn't consider that humans evolved on what you would call a death world, a high-gravity planet with extreme temperatures and thousands of natural dangers." For the first time in his long career of conquest, Supreme Warlord Zextral felt fear. These humans moved like predators. They thought like predators. They had turned ceremonial objects into weapons and used his own ship's systems against him. "What happens now?" Zextral asked, his voice low. "Now," Steve said, "we negotiate. Not as conquerors and subjects, but as equals. Earth has no interest in destruction, only in peace. But we will not be threatened." He looked around at the stunned Kreth officers. "So tell me, Supreme Warlord, is that demonstration sufficient, or should we continue?" The news of what happened on the Kreth flagship spread quickly through the galactic hegemony. For the first time in 300 years, a Kreth conquest had failed. Even more shocking, it was stopped by a species that had only achieved faster-than-light travel a decade ago. The Galactic Hegemony Council called an emergency meeting. The 7 senior races gathered in their grand chamber on a space station at the edge of Kreth territory. The council members sat in a circle, each on a platform designed for their species. Some were tall and thin, others short and wide. One was a cloud of gas contained in a special field. But all were worried. Ambassador Nancy Wells stood at the center of the council chamber. She had been a teacher before the Kreth arrived, with no diplomatic experience. But she was calm under pressure and good at explaining complex ideas simply. Earth's leaders thought these skills would be useful now. Nancy looked small compared to most aliens present. She wore a simple blue suit, and her gray hair was cut short. But despite her ordinary appearance, she commanded the room's attention. "Respected council members," she began, "my name is Nancy Wells, representing Earth. I understand you have questions about recent events involving the Kreth fleet." "Questions?" The Zoltan representative, a tall being with 4 arms, leaned forward. "Your species was facing subjugation or destruction. Now Supreme Warlord Zextral has agreed to withdraw from your system and propose diplomatic relations. How is this possible? Nancy smiled. The Kreth misjudged us. They measured our technology against yours and found it wanting. What they failed to understand is that humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. She touched a control on her wrist, and holographic images appeared around the chamber. They showed Earth's history, ancient warriors developing, tactics against superior forces, guerrilla fighters defeating conventional armies, and civilian tools repurposed as weapons. Warfare drives innovation, Nancy continued. When survival is at stake, humans become incredibly creative. We turned our planet's entire internet, a network built for sharing knowledge, into a weapon delivery system. We converted mining, equipment into spacecraft bombs. We used our bodies adapted to high gravity and high oxygen as natural advantages. The council members shifted uncomfortably. Several made notes on their devices. But what you must understand, Nancy said, her voice softening, is that humans don't want war. We want trade, cultural exchange, and peaceful cooperation. The Kreth gave us no choice but to defend ourselves. Now we ask to join your community as equals, not as vassals. The Kreth representative, not Zextral but a lower-ranking official, stood up. This human speaks false words, he shouted. They attacked our vessels without provocation. Without provocation? Nancy raised an eyebrow, in a gesture reminiscent of Captain Dawson. Your fleet threatened to bombard our planet if we didn't. Surrender. We have recordings of every conversation. She played the video of Zextral's threats and Captain Dawson's response. When it ended, the council chamber was silent. Humans didn't attack first, Nancy said. We didn't destroy any Kreth ships, though we could have. Instead, we demonstrated that violence against Earth would be costly for both sides. Then we offered peace. The Morlanian council member, whose body resembled a large jellyfish, floated forward. Ambassador Wells, your tactics against the Kreth were unusual. You bypassed their shields and weapons. You used their own systems against them. These are not the actions of a species interested only in peace, Nancy nodded. Our methods were shaped by necessity. But consider our restraint. We had control of Kreth systems. We could have destroyed their fleet. Instead, we asked for talks. She walked slowly around the chamber, making eye contact with each council member. Throughout our history, humans have shown both great capacity for warfare and great desire for peace. We build weapons but hope never to use them. We prepare for the worst while working for the best. This duality confuses the Kreth, who see strength and mercy as opposites. The council took a recess to discuss the situation privately. Nancy waited in a small chamber, drinking water that had been certified safe for human consumption. She was nervous but didn't show it. Earth's future might depend on what happened next. After 2 hours, she was called back to the council chamber. The mood had changed. The council members seemed less hostile, though still cautious. The Zoltan representative spoke first. The council has reached a conclusion, Ambassador Wells. Humanity will not be subjected to hegemony control. You have proven, he hesitated, searching for the right words, and too problematic to make enemies of. Nancy suppressed a smile at the backhanded compliment. However, the Zoltan continued, we remain concerned about human aggression. You developed tactics to defeat hegemony defenses in a matter of days. What other weapons might you create if given time? That depends on you, Nancy said honestly. Humans respond to threats with force and to friendship with loyalty. The Kreth approached us as enemies, so we responded accordingly. Approach us as friends, and you'll find no stronger allies. The Morlanian member floated closer. What are you proposing specifically? A new relationship, Nancy said. Not the traditional hegemony structure of rulers and subjects, but a true alliance. Mutual defense pacts, technology sharing, cultural exchange programs, equal representation for all species. Several council members looked shocked at these suggestions. The Kreth representative made angry clicking sounds, but others seemed intrigued. These ideas are radical, the Zoltan said carefully. They would change the fundamental nature of the hegemony. Perhaps it's time for change, Nancy suggested. The current system breeds resentment among subject species. It encourages rebellion. A more equal partnership would be more stable in the long term. The council voted to create a committee to study Nancy's proposals. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. As she left the chamber, Nancy knew the real work was just beginning. Changing a system that had existed for centuries wouldn't be easy, but humans were good at doing the impossible. That's what the Kreth had learned, and what the council would soon discover for themselves. 1 year had passed since humans first met the Kreth. Captain Lisa Dawson stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned Earth diplomatic vessel Unity. Through the large windows, she could see the celebration happening on the rebuilt Galactic Hegemony Station. The station looked different now. What had once been a fortress designed to show Kreth power was now a place for all species to meet as equals. The harsh angles had been softened. Gardens from a dozen worlds grew in specially designed habitats. Art from every member species decorated the walls. Hard to believe how much has changed in just 1 year, said Commander Kyle Ramirez, now Lisa's first officer on the Unity. Lisa nodded. When Zexitral made those threats, I thought we were finished, but it turns out humans had one advantage over everyone else in the galaxy. What's that? Kyle asked. We had been imagining alien invasions for centuries, Lisa said with a smile. We've been mentally preparing for this moment in books, movies, and games. When it actually happened, we were ready. On the station below, representatives from all species in the hegemony gathered for a historic ceremony. Today, they would sign the new Galactic Charter, transforming the old empire into something closer to a federation of equals. The former vassal races were celebrating their new status. Even some Kreth were there, those who had opposed their leadership's expansionist policies and now supported the reformed government. Dr. Susan Cooper approached, carrying a data tablet. The xenobiology conference was amazing, she said excitedly. I've been comparing notes with scientists from 12 different worlds. It turns out we're the only known species that evolved from persistence hunters. What does that mean? Kyle asked. Most sentient species were prey animals or ambush predators, Susan explained. They either evolved to hide and run away from danger or to attack quickly and then rest. Humans are different. We chase things down over long distances. We keep going when other species would give up. Lisa thought about this. That explains why Zexitral was so shocked when I asked, "Is that all?" after his threats. In their culture, displaying overwhelming force always worked. They had no concept of a species that would see impossible odds as a challenge rather than a reason to surrender. Exactly, Susan agreed. And it's not just physical. Mentally, we approach problems differently. When the Kreth cut off one option, we immediately look for another. When they show us a superior weapon, we don't think about building a better one. We think about how to make that weapon irrelevant. The three officers watched as more ships arrived at the station. Earth was sending teachers, engineers, artists, and scientists to share knowledge with other worlds. In return, alien experts were traveling to Earth to do the same. We've received another transmission from home, Kyle said, checking his communications panel. More volunteers for the cultural exchange program than we have spots for. Lisa wasn't surprised. Humanity's curiosity, their desire to explore and connect, matched only by their fierce determination to defend their freedom. It was a combination no other species in the galaxy quite understood. On the main level of the station, Nancy Wells was preparing for the signing ceremony. After her success with the Council, Earth had made her their permanent ambassador. She had helped design many of the reforms that would be implemented today. The new system wasn't perfect. Some Kreth still resented the changes. A few of the senior Council races worried about losing their privileged positions, but most recognized that the old way couldn't continue. An empire built on fear and threats would eventually collapse. A community built on mutual respect and cooperation had a better chance of lasting. Lisa's communication device beeped. It was a message from Admiral Barnes back on Earth. "Captain Dawson," he said when she answered, "how are things looking up there?" "Good, Admiral," Lisa reported. The signing ceremony starts in an hour. After that, the new galactic charter will be official. Excellent, Barnes nodded. And how are our new friends treating you? Lisa smiled. With respect, and a healthy dose of caution, I think they're still trying to figure us out. That might take them a while, Barnes said with a chuckle. Half the time. We can't figure ourselves out. After the call ended, Lisa returned to the window. From here she could see Earth ships docked alongside vessels from a dozen other worlds. Human engineers were working with alien specialists, sharing ideas and solving problems together. A small Kreth ship approached the station. Unlike the warships Lisa had first encountered, this was a civilian vessel. It carried students from the Kreth homeworld coming to learn about other cultures. Things were changing, slowly but surely. Captain, Kyle said, it's almost time for the ceremony. We should head down to the main level. As they walked through the station corridors, aliens of various species nodded respectfully to the human officers. Some still looked nervous around humans. The stories of how Earth had defeated the Kreth fleet had spread throughout the galaxy, growing with each telling. But others were openly friendly, eager to learn more about this strange species that had changed everything. At the entrance to the main hall, Lisa paused. A year ago, she had faced down a Kreth warlord with nothing but her wits and courage. Now she was about to witness the birth of a new galactic order, one where Earth had an equal voice. You know what the best part is? Susan said quietly as they entered the hall. We did this without destroying anyone. We showed them our strength but also our wisdom. Lisa nodded. That's the real human superpower. Not that we can fight when needed, but that we'd rather not fight at all. The ceremony began with representatives from each world taking their place at the great circular table. The old hierarchical seating was gone. Now all species sat as equals. As Nancy Wells signed the charter on behalf of Earth, Lisa thought about how far they had come, from a single human ship facing a Kreth fleet to this moment of galactic unity, all because humans had refused to be intimidated. Is that all? She had asked Zexistral when he threatened Earth. The answer, it turned out, was no, that was just the beginning.